Hi, and welcome to this video on user-defined functions in Python. Hi, I'm Raghavendra, an expert in AI, ML, and data engineering. By the end of this video, you will be able to understand what user-defined functions are, develop user-defined functions, understand the scope of variables, and develop functions with default arguments. Let's now first understand what are functions and how we're going to create that in Python. The simple print statement that we use in Python to print the output is nothing but an inbuilt Python function. What this print function does is that it takes an input and gives an output. Here you can see, here is the print function which we have used, and we have passed an input to that function. Input we pass to a function is called as an argument or parameter to the function. And the output in this particular case is that the print statement, when we execute, is going to display some output on the screen. The output can be the content of a variable, or it can as well be a string message, as we see here, like welcome to Python. This is precisely what a function does, takes an input and gives an output. Similarly, we can define our own functions which would take certain input and generate a specific output. Function helps in code reusability, where a piece of code can be used in different scenarios. Here we are defining a function. We are using the Diff keyword, which stands to define a function. Here follows the name of the function, that is Celsius to Fahrenheit, followed by the parameter or the argument to the function. And this forms the function header, and we end the function header with the colon. So it forms a new block. It begins a new block of the function body. There is only one statement in the body of the function, which is a return statement, which returns a value or a computation from the function. The return statement here is going to return this particular computation from the function. So let's create this function. Here in this code, we are creating a function, Celsius to Fahrenheit, and this computation over here, that is 9 divided by 5 multiplied by temperature plus 32, is going to be returned. So this function takes a single parameter, temperature, as input. And by the way, this function takes temperature in the Celsius scale as argument and returns the temperature in Fahrenheit scale as output. Let's create this function. So the function is now created. We are going to invoke this function. So I specify the name of the function, followed by, within small bracket, I'm going to pass the argument, which is nothing but the temperature in Celsius scale. I pass 36 for that. You get an output as 96.8, which is nothing but the temperature equivalent to Fahrenheit scale for the input temperature of 36. We're going to next define another function, square, which is going to take a number as an argument. And in the body of the function, you can see a string which is in triple quotes. This denotes what is called as the doc string, or the documentation related to the function. So this is also called as a doc string, or the documentation to the function. And this function only has one single statement where we are returning the square of every input number to the function. Let's create this function. So let's create this function. When I say name of the function, square dot underscore underscore doc underscore underscore, returns this line, this documentation about the function. Let's see what happens when we try to print the doc string. It prints the documentation about the function, the message, that is, this function squares the number as an input. This function squares the number provided as input to the function. Now, when we invoke this function or call this function square of 5, we will have 5 being passed to num, and your function is going to return the square of that particular number, that is 25. Let's move on in creating some complex function. So here is a function to print tables. So for whatever number we have supplied, so we are going to define the function tables taking an argument. And by the way, functions can take 0 or any number of arguments. So we run a for loop for I in range of 1 to 11. We are going to print the number and its tables. So let's create this function. We are going to call this function by passing a value 5 to that function. It's going to print the 5 tables. Tables of 9. So it's going to print the 9 tables. So I'm not going to write the code for computing 9 times 1 is 9 or 9 times 2 is 18 again and again. I have just defined this function once and we are going to reuse that again and again. So that's how functions are going to serve the purpose of code reusability. Now let's print the docstring associated with the function. This function does not have any string which are enclosed in triple quotes, so nothing gets printed over here. So again, it's not mandatory for every function to have docstrings, but if a function has a docstring, it serves the purpose of some useful documentation about the function. Now we are going to understand what are internal variables, variables which are internal to a function, and what are external variables, that is variables which are external to a function. So I'm going to define, or I'm going to declare a variable x outside the function. We have a function defined over here, that is multiply underscore 2. So, and then inside this function we are going to define another variable, that is y is equal to 25, and we are going to return this statement from that function. So in this return statement, we are using num, which is an argument which is passed to the function, multiplied by y, which is an internal variable which is internal to the function, plus x, which is an external variable which is defined or declared outside the function. Let's create this, and by executing this, so we have declared an external variable. We have defined a function over here. Now when I say multiply underscore 2, we pass an argument 5 to that function. Let's see what we get. We are going to get an answer of 135, which means that a function can access variables declared both inside as well as outside the function. Now let's try to print the value of this variable y. By the way, where have we created this variable y? We have declared and created this variable y inside the function. Let's try accessing that outside the function. Print of y is going to give you an error because outside the function we will be unable to access the variables declared inside the function, also called as internal variables. To summarize about the scope of a variable defined inside a function cannot be accessed from outside the function. However, a variable defined outside a function can be accessed from inside the function. Let's next move on to create functions with default values. So here I create a function with a name tables, have an argument, but not just the argument, but also I'm assigning it with a value of 2. And here is the code to compute the table multiplication for a given input number using a for loop. Let me create this. Now when I say tables of, I don't pass any arguments. When I say tables of, I don't pass any arguments there. So in the absence of any argument, so the default value of 2 is going to be taken and your function is going to return the tables of 2, right? It's going to print the tables of 2. When I say tables of 4, the default value is overridden by the value what is being passed. So num takes a value of 4 and this code here computes the tables for 4, and you can see the output over here. In this video, you have learned functions in Python are defined using the def keyword. Docstrings inside the function can be accessed using the __doc__ parameter. Variables defined inside the function cannot be accessed from outside the function, and variables defined outside the function can very much be accessed from inside the function. Thank you for watching this video.